let's bring in the man himself, Mr. Shelton Benjamin. Shelton, how are you, man?
How you guys doing? I'm very good. Very good.
How could you not be?
You
What
look
up, though?
Congratulations, man. You're. I thought you had the perfect debut, as well as then the follow up the next week. You're showing, and I know you. You're a super competitive person, but you're showing the world your greatness, and I'm happy you're getting that spotlight.
Well, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate the compliment. I've been getting a lot of great feedback on my debut match and the match with Sammy. And first of all, hats off to Leo Rush and Sammy because, like I said, those guys they can take a beating. And but they're tough. I mean, but they're great competitors, and I really felt good about my performances then. So right now, everything's going good. And I heard you guys speaking a little before. Like, yeah, I feel uh, rejuvenated. I'm very much happy to be there, and can't wait for tonight.
How do you feel about the difference between the style of wrestling that you were used to now these two matches that are like with two of the super high flying guys like Leo Rush and Sammy, and now you're gonna be wrestling Strickland, who is a hybrid of all kinds of wrestler. And how do you feel like your way that you're performing is different than before?
Um, I'm definitely excited about the possibilities and facing different styles, but I've always prided myself on my ability to adapt to any style, be it lucha style, be it Japanese strong style, American style, like even European. Like I've always prided myself and studied, just how to again incorporate my style into those styles. I don't see me changing what I do a lot. It's more I find a way to work within. I plan. I know how to work with various styles, so that doesn't bother me at all. And Swerve being a bit of a hybrid, well, I consider myself the original hybrid. So facing a guy like Swerve and his abilities and everything that he brings to the table, I think it'll be for me it'll be actually interesting to face someone who was similar to me in my earlier days, uh, but at the same time, I feel like I have a little bit more experience, to say the least, and so I'm excited to see what happens. I know what I expect to do. I know what I plan to do, which will be no different than what happened with Leo and what happened with Sammy. Uh, but yeah, Swerve is going to be a challenge. Swerve is going to be a test, and I'm ready for it.
I think most people forget that. I mean, you were a full timer in New Japan,
Right.
and that's nothing different from you to you. Here's the other part. When we talk about this guy who's an amazing amateur wrestler, when it came to whatever ladder match or Money in the Bank match, Shelton would always be in there stealing the show, or he
Yeah.
became the standard of what is Shelton going to do in this match, whether run up the ladder or
Right.
do something like that. So, like when you say adapting to the style, I think Swerve will have one of his biggest tests tonight facing you, but also you're focused and hungry like I've never seen you before. Is it just
Right.
because of, I mean, and we all talked about it, the misuse or lack of use from you,
hmm
uh, from where you used to work, and now you're having this platform to shine?
I would say it's more a lack of use. Um, because I've had as many careers have ups and downs. Things aren't always going my way, but I've had some great highlights from personal highlights for myself, and for me, it's more yeah a bit of misuse because I feel like there's a generation of wrestling fans out there who don't view me in the light that I'd like to be viewed. Don't view me in the light that I feel I've earned and deserve. Um, and so there's definitely a sense of image rehabilitation going on because I'm not that same guy from WWE. I'm not trying to be. You know, while I cherish my time in WWE because it really changed my life for the better. I have more good memories than bad, but the bad memories that I have, uh, I you know I definitely want to make up for. Like again, and it's not about proving myself to anybody as much as it is uh, showing them what they've been missing this entire time.
What are their misconceptions then that people have about you?
Uh, I think one of the biggest misconceptions that I and it keeps coming up is my desire to just be on the roster. And
Mm.
I've heard that a few times. I've even heard bogus stories pop up about me, me saying that, yeah, I'm happy just to be on the roster. I'm happy, you know, just to have a spot. I'm happy to sit in catering. And every time I hear this stuff, it really irks me because I wish I knew where that started because it's all complete bullshit. Um, I wasn't jumping off ladders and running off ladders and taking suplexes and Germans and all this other stuff just so I could be on the roster. I had the same mission everybody else should have when they enter professional wrestling, and that's to be a world
Yes.
champion. That's to be in the spotlight. That's to be the man. And I until I retire, that is my goal. Like I have no desire to be a spot filler.
Shelton, and I guess I had the same conversation with Mark Henry, something I would never be able to experience, and that is like walking into a room or walking into the ring, and Shelton knowing that you could break anybody that's in that room or in that ring. The one thing that I always hear about you is that you're one of the toughest that's ever wrestled. You're one of those guys that if it was legit and it was a shoot, you would beat the shit out of the person that was across from you. I mean, what is that like when you use words like misuse or not being used, but physically you could take on anybody that was in front of you?
Um, well, from a non-professional perspective, yeah, it is. It's comforting to know that at any point I could switch it. I could switch to flip the switch, and yeah, I could probably pretty much dominate most of the guys. I think a lot of people forget that I am and was an All-American heavyweight wrestler in high school and in college. I'm a two-time NCAA All-American. I'm a high school All-American, state champion, junior college national champion, NCAA All-American. And I am also the guy who, for a year and a half, had to wrestle Brock every day for 3 to 4 hours every day. And it wasn't me getting walked through. It wasn't a situation where I was getting ragdoll. Like we were having competitive matches. Sometimes he would beat me, sometimes I'll beat him, and then there were days where for 2 3 hours it was two guys standing up, bulls just ramming horns and no one giving an inch. So it's comforting for me to know that I have that ability, and if necessary, I can use it. However, I knew what I was getting into when I entered pro wrestling, and from a creative standpoint, well, what I did then, what I really can do, uh, doesn't matter. It helps to have that in my back pocket, but from an entertainment aspect, if I'm not using my abilities to deliver a great product for the pro wrestling fans, then it really doesn't matter what I could do because I'm not an MMA fighter. If you want to see shoot fighting, well, we have UFC, we have Bellator, we have all these other companies. I've been a pro wrestler at this point longer than I've been anything else in my life, and that's this is what I'm going to be remembered for. So my true physical abilities versus my daytime job is I know how to separate the two.
How
Thank God, as especially one of his opponents.
Sounds
Your
scary.
relationship with MVP. Did he go to AEW first and say, "Hey, you should come here and we could do some good business"? Or
To answer your question, no, it was more a hey, let's go to AEW. MVP's my best friend. MVP's we live literally 5 minutes away from each other. So we spent a lot of time together, even when, he was still there and I wasn't. Obviously we were tag teams in New Japan. So we have a long, long history, and and we built up a great friendship over that time. And with everything, and as far as our history goes, and what fans keep saying they want, like we were like, yeah, we should go to AEW. And again, because we want to reach the biggest audience possible. And AEW is, if you can't be in WWE at this time, if you're not at AEW, it's you don't get the same kind of visibility.
National television. That's right.
Yes, sir.
Sheldon, how different do you think on this new chapter of your career is it gonna be for you? And what do you feel you have more control than before?
Well, while I'm still learning how AEW operates, I won't pretend to be to be a professional in their day to day. I've only been there a month, but I have noticed that the people I'm working with, the writers, the boss, everyone seems to be on board. Everyone seems to be willing to listen to ideas. It actually feels like it actually feels like collaboration versus orders. So that's for me, the biggest change. And it's not just me. I've witnessed it with, talent from top to bottom, which again, I'm very not used to. So like I said, everything so far feels more like collaboration than orders.
Shelton, for you, like this past month, a lot of buzz around you. Everybody's talking about you. The highlights of this show surround you. Everybody's looking forward to tonight. Dynamite Youth stepping into the ring with Swerve. But there's been opportunities with your career that, as a fan of yours, I was angry and frustrated by. The Hurt Business. Everybody was talking about the Hurt Business. It was big. That was one of the reasons to watch Raw. And then quickly it was unplugged. The face-to-face that you had with Brock and Michael Cole putting over the relationship that you had with Brock, your collegiate career, and then they do nothing with it. Like, how frustrating was it for you where you see something, you see the story, you see the entertainment value, the fans want to see it, and then it just doesn't happen?
Highly frustrating, but I mean, I've dealt with so many situations like that you kind of get numb to it. It's almost like learned helplessness. It's like it's clear what fans want. It's clear what will work, and you are clearly purposely avoiding it. I've dealt with that not just with the Hurt Business, but at various points in my career. There have been points where I don't think I know they should have accelerated me. One after the Shawn Michaels match, I felt like I should have been accelerated. I had even in my first one, I had a series of matches with The Undertaker, and it was like, I'm going 3 weeks in a row, 2 segments with The Undertaker. The Undertaker won, but he's The Undertaker. But I'm doing 2 segments on national television, with the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest superstar of all time. And 3 weeks of that, and then week 4, you have me losing in 2 minutes to, not The Undertaker. So there was a lot of head scratching moments, and there are times I go, well, what is going on? Because no one tells you. Everyone has an excuse, but no one actually tells you what is the problem. And part of me feels like, because if they tell you, well, you can poke holes in it. And, it was very frustrating. But I always had the attitude is I can't change anything if I'm out of the game. So for me, I'm very dedicated to my commitments. I signed a contract, so I'm not the type to go and say, okay, I quit. I am going to keep trying and keep fighting. And I think if you notice, every few years, I feel like I do something that creates a buzz, because I'm still, just like everyone else, trying to trying to get over, trying to get ahead. And sometimes I guess my biggest regret is sometimes I wish I had walked away and tried my luck elsewhere. But I wanted to be, again, I wanted to be in the big leagues. I wanted to be with the biggest show in town. And I wanted to prove that I am just as good, if not better, than my classmates.
AEW, they're a wrestling centric company. We're the best wrestle. I've heard that slogan a bunch of times.
Right.
And yes, what the fans want. What do you want? Who do you want to wrestle? There's a lot of first time matchups. I know personally that I'd like to see you have, especially this version of you. But who do you want?
Wow, there's AEW is flooded with great talent. So my first thought, only because I think the guy's phenomenal, is Will Ospreay. I would love to work with Moxley. I never, I don't even know if we've shared a locker room until now. I would, like I said, Swerve was definitely someone I wanted to wrestle. MJF, but it's there's Hobbs, and there's even some old faces, old familiar faces. I shouldn't say old faces, familiar faces there, because obviously I've always felt like myself and Christian had dynamite matches. Obviously, me and Edge had dynamite matches. And there's a lot of there's just so much talent there. Like when I start going down the list, and there's so many, again, as you said, first time opportunities. There is, it's a very long list, but those are just the highlights, but not just, those aren't the only names on that list.
I'm very curious to hear from you. You are from Orangeburg, South Carolina, one of the very few of your kind to get out of there and be as successful as you are. How important is representation for you?
Well, there's a reason that I did not use a fake hometown, because I felt like my city, my town in particular, Orangeburg, had, when I was growing up, so many talented kids. But a lot of people, because it's not a big name city, it's not a New York City, it's not a Chicago or things like that. So people just kind of change where they were from in the wrestling business. And I wanted to be an example for, first of all, it started me, I just want to be a great example for my little brother. And then that expanded to my entire community, because, again, I saw so much talent in the city of Orangeburg that people just aren't aware of. I never considered myself athletically gifted, because most of the kids around me were doing the same type of things I was doing. Obviously, I got into sports, and I was able to channel my gifts, but I felt like at the time Orangeburg had so many talented young people that I would be doing my community a disservice by saying I was from somewhere else, because they originally were saying I was from Minneapolis, because obviously I went to the University of Minnesota, so I understood it. But as soon as I became singles, I'm like, no, I'm from Orangeburg, and people from Orangeburg need to know I'm from Orangeburg, so that I'm trying to give hope to, because Orangeburg is still a rather poor town. But it's home. My mom still lives there. My brothers live there, So I felt a responsibility to my community, because I don't get back to at least, let them know, hey, one of us is doing something that's really freaking cool. So if I can do it, you can do it, because I'm no different than anyone there.
I love it. Shelton, appreciate you taking the time. Big match tonight, AEW Dynamite, Swerve Strickland against our guest right now, Shelton Benjamin. And Shelton, I love what you're doing, man. This is awesome. Right. Thank you so much for giving us a reason to watch each and every week, because you've been killing it.
Well, thank you. I will continue to try. I will try to continue to kill it. And Swerve, time's up.